Hello, friends. Welcome to my Bible reading today. How is everybody this morning? Or afternoon. I guess it's morning for me, but it's probably afternoon for a lot of other people. I had a lazy morning. So, yeah, I'm going to do a little review of yesterday. Yesterday we talked about Abraham and Sarah. Well, Abram. He hasn't changed his name yet. Abram. And Sarai, and how God promised that he would have as many descendants as the stars or more. And then Sarai didn't believe God or Abram that she was ever going to be able to have kids because she was barren. So she went and gave her slave girl, Hagar, to her husband. And it's interesting because I don't think I was ever told that they got married. I think it was just kind of implied that she just gave him or gave her to him. But in the Bible that we read yesterday, it said that they actually got married. So that's an interesting tidbit that I did not know was in the Bible. And then Hagar ran away because she got put in a position, like, she didn't want to be in that position at all, but she had no control over her own life because she was a slave. So then an angel comes and tells her that she needs to go back and be a doormat. So we did that, and I think we're going to learn more about the story today. And we know that Ishmael's been born now. Yeah. So I think I'm going to start reading. We're going to do Genesis 18 to 20 today. And I will just start reading, and then maybe we can have some more talking at the end like yesterday. When I started doing this, I thought I was just going to do like a reading and not really discuss it. But yesterday was really good, and I really enjoyed like kind of digging into the text and seeing like the issues with the text and how what people think God's character is not what it says in the Bible. So I think that's a good thing to look at and just see, like, this is not, a lot of the things in the Bible are not moral like they say they are. So we're going to start at Genesis 18. If you want to follow along. Oh, whoops. Bumped my mic. Sorry. Giant Bible. Or is it 17? Did we stop on 17 yesterday? I thought we read 17. Okay, we're going to start on 17 because I was wrong. We stopped at 16 yesterday. All right. When Abram was 99 years old, Adonai appeared to Abram and said to him, I am God Almighty. Walk in my presence and be pure-hearted. I will make my covenant between you, me and you, and I will increase your numbers greatly. Abram fell on his face, and God continued speaking with him. As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be father of many nations. Your name will no longer be Abram, but your name will be Abraham. Because of this, I made you father of many nations. I will cause you to be very fruitful. I will make nations of you. Kings will descend from them. I am establishing my covenant between me and you, along with your descendants after you, generation after generation. Hello, Jade. Thanks for being here. For people who just came in, we are reading. I was a little bit wrong on my Twitter feed. We're starting on 17. So if you want to read along, we're on 17, and we're going to read at 20 today. Generation after generation, an everlasting covenant, to be God for you and for your descendants after you. I will give you and your descendants after you the land in which you are now foreigners, all the land of Canaan, as permanent possession, and I will be their God." God said to Abraham, "As for you, you are to keep my covenant, you and your descendants, and you and your descendants after you, generation after generation. Here is my covenant, which you are to keep between me and you, along with your descendants after you. Every male must be circumcised. You are to be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. This will be a sign of the covenant between me and you. Generation after generation, every male among you who is 8 days old is to be circumcised, including slave born within your household, and those bought from a foreigner not descended from you. The slave born in your house and the person bought with your money must be circumcised. Thus my covenant will be your flesh as an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who will not let himself be circumcised in the flesh of foreskin, that person will be cut off from his people, because he has broken my covenant." God said to Abraham, "As for Sarai your wife, you are not to call her Sarai, but her name is to be Sarah. I will bless her. Moreover, I will give you a son by her. Truly I will bless her. She will be a mother of nations. Kings of people will come from her." At this, Abraham fell on his face and laughed. He thought to himself, "Will a child be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah give birth at 90? Abraham said to God, "If only Ishmael could live in your presence." God answered, "No, but Sarah your wife will bear you a son, and you will call him Yitzchak. I will establish my covenant with him in an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. But as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I have blessed him. I will make him fruitful and give him many descendants. He will father 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Yitzchak." Isaac. That's Isaac. Okay. "Whom Sarah will bear to you at this time next year." With that, God finished speaking with Abraham and went up from him. Abraham took Ishmael his son, all the slaves born in his house, and all who had bought with the money, every male among the people in Abraham's household, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskin that very day, just as God had said to them. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Abraham and Ishmael his son were circumcised on the same day. And all the men in his households, both slave born in his house and those who were bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. Adonai appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre, as he sat at the entrance to the tent during the heat of day. He raised his eyes and looked, and there in front of him stood 3 men. On seeing them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, prostrated himself on the ground, and said, "My Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, please don't leave your servant. Please let me send for some water, so that you can wash your feet. Then rest under the tree, and I will bring a piece of bread. Now that you have come to your servant, refresh yourselves before going on." "Very well," they replied. "Do what you have said." Abraham hurried to the tent to Sarah and said, "Quickly, 3 measures of the best flour. Knead it and make cakes." Abraham ran to the herd, took a good tender calf, and gave it to the servant, who hurried to prepare it. Then he took curds, milk, and the calf which he had prepared, and set it all before the men. And he stood by them under the tree as they ate. They said to him, "Where is Sarah your wife?" He said, "There in the tent." He said, I will certainly return to you around this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son." Sarah heard him from the entrance of the tent behind him. Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years. Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself, thinking, "I am old, and so is my Lord. Am I to have pleasure again?" Adonai said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and ask if I'm really going to bear a child when I am so old? Is anything too hard for Adonai?" At the time set for it, at the season next year, I will return to you, and Sarah will have a son. Sarah denied it, saying, "I didn't laugh," because she was afraid. He said, "Not so. You did laugh." The men set out from there and looked over towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to see them on their way. Adonai said, "Should I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Inasmuch as Abraham is sure to become a great and strong nation, and the nations of the earth will be blessed by him. For I have made myself known to him, so that he will give orders to his children and to his household after him to keep the way of Adonai, and do what is right and just, so that Adonai may bring about for Abraham what he has promised him." Adonai said, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin so serious, that I will now go down and see whether their deeds warrant the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know." The men turned away from there and went towards Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before Adonai. Abraham approached and said, "Will you actually sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Maybe there are 50 righteous people in the city. Will you actually sweep the place away and not forgive it for the sake of 50 righteous who are there? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous along with the wicked, so that the righteous and the wicked are treated alike. Far be it from you. Shouldn't the judge of all the earth do what is just?" Adonai said, "If I find in Sodom 50 who are righteous, then I will forgive the whole place for their sake." Abraham answered, "Hear now, who am I but dust and ashes to take it upon myself to speak to Adonai? What if there are 5 less than 50 righteous?" he said. "I won't destroy it if I find 45 there." He spoke to him yet again. "What if 40 are found there?" he said. "For the sake of 40 I will not do it." He said, "I hope Adonai won't be angry if I speak. What if 30 are found there?" He said, "I won't do it if I find 30 there." He said, "Hear now, I have taken it upon myself to speak to Adonai. What if 20 are found there?" He said, "For the sake of 20 I won't destroy it." He said, "Hear now." He said, "I hope Adonai won't be angry if I speak once more. What if 10 are found there?" he said. "For the sake of 10 I won't destroy it." Adonai went on his way, and soon as he finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. The 2 angels came to Sodom that evening. When Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom, Lot saw them, got up to greet them, and prostrated himself on the ground. He said, "Hear now, my lords. Please come over to your servant's house, spend the night, wash your feet, get up early, and go on your way." "No," they answered, "we'll stay in the square." But he kept pressing them. So they went home with him, and he made them a meal, baking unleavened bread for their supper, which they ate. But before they could go to bed, the men of the city surrounded the house, young and old, from every neighborhood in Sodom. They called to Lot and said to him, "Where are the men who came to stay with you tonight? Bring them out to us. We want to have sex with them." Lot went to them and stood at the doorway, closing the door behind them. He said, "Please, my brothers, Don't do such a wicked thing. Look here, I have 2 daughters who are virgins. Please let me bring them to you, and you can do what seems good to you, but don't do anything to these men." "Since they are guests in my house." "Stand back," they replied. "This guy came to live here, and now he's decided to play judge. For that, we'll deal worse with you than with them." Then they crowded in on Lot, in order to get close enough to break down the door. But the men inside reached their hands, brought Lot into the house to them, and shut the door. Then they struck the men at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so they could not find the doorway. Yeah, it's really gross. I hate this story. But it just goes, this story is one that really shows you, how they actually thought of women. And, the Israelites, how they thought of women. And it's saddening. The men said to Lot, "Do you have any people here beside yourself? Whomever you have in the city, son-in-law, your sons, your daughter, bring them out of this place, because we are going to destroy it." Adonai has become aware of the great outcry against them, and Adonai has sent us to destroy it. But the sons-in-law did not take him seriously. When morning came, the angel told Lot to hurry. "Get up," they said, "and take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here. Otherwise you'll be swept away in the punishment of the city." But he dallied, so the men took hold of his wife's hands, and the hands of the 2 daughters. Adonai was being merciful to him, and led them, leaving them outside of the city. When they had brought them out, he said, "Flee for your life. Don't look behind you, and don't stop anywhere in the plain, but escape to the hills. Otherwise you will be swept away." Lot said to them, "Please no, my lord. Here my servant has already found favor in your sight, and you have shown me even greater mercy by saving my life. Look, there's a town nearby to flee to, and it's a small one. Please let me escape there. Isn't it just a small one? And that way I will stay alive?" He replied, "All right, I agree to what you have asked. I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Hurry and escape to that place, because I can't do anything until you arrive there. For this reason, the city was named Tazorah." Because he was already in the city, I guess. Because Lot was living in that city, and they said the city was going to get swept away. So, if he hadn't left, him and his whole family would have died, because they were actually in the city that God was going to destroy. Even though, God's supposed to be all-powerful, he could have, put a force field or something around Lot's house. I don't know. It's not supposed to make sense. By the time Lot had come to the city, the sun had risen over the land. Then Adonai caused sulfur and fire to rain down upon Sodom and Gomorrah from Adonai out of the sky. He overthrew those cities, the entire plain, all the inhabitants of the cities, and everything growing on the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a column of salt. Abraham got up early in the morning, went to the place where he stood before Adonai, and looked out towards Sodom and Gomorrah, scanning the entire plain. There before him the smoke was rising from the land like smoke of a furnace. But when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham and sent Lot out, away from the destruction, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot lived. Lot went up from Tazorah and lived in the hills with his 2 daughters, because he was afraid to stay in Tazorah. He and his daughters lived in a cave. The firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there isn't a man on earth to come to us in the manner customary in the world." That's a weird way to say that. Come, let us have our father drink wine. Then we'll sleep with him, and that way we'll enable our father to have descendants. So they plied their father with wine that night, and the older one went in and slept with her father. He didn't know when she lay down or when she got up. The following day, the older said to the younger, "Here, I slept last night with my father. Let's make him drink wine again tonight. And you go in and sleep with him, and that way we'll enable our father to have descendants." They plied their father with wine that night also, and the younger one got up and slept with him, and he didn't know when she lay down or when she got up. Thus both the daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. The older one gave birth to a son and called him Moab. He is the ancestor of Moab to this day. The younger also gave birth to a son, and she called him Ben-Ami. He is the ancestor of the people of Ammon to this day. Abraham traveled from there to Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. While living there as an alien in Gerar, Abraham was saying of Sarah his wife, "She is my sister." So Avimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. But God came to Avimelech in a dream one night and said, "You are about to die because the woman you have taken, since she is someone's wife." This is the second time this has happened. Abraham told his wife in a couple chapters back when they went and saw the Pharaoh to do the same thing, like tell him that I'm your you're my sister, not the wife. So this is just a repeat of the story, but with a different king. Now Avimelech had not come near her, so he said, "Lord, will you kill even an upright nation? Didn't he himself say to me, 'She is my sister'? And even she herself said, 'He is my brother.' In doing this, my heart has been pure, and my hands innocent." God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know that in doing this, your heart has been pure, and I too have kept you from sinning against me. This is why I didn't let you touch her. Therefore, return the man's wife to him now. He is a prophet, and he will pray for you, so that you will live. But if you don't return her, know that you will certainly die, you and all who belong to you." Avimelech got up in the morning, called all his servants, and told them these things. And the men became very afraid. Then Avimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? How have I sinned against you to cause you to bring me and my kingdom a great sin? You have done things to me that are just not done." Avimelech went on asking Abraham, "Whatever could have caused you to do such a thing?" Abraham replied, "It was because I thought there could not possibly be any fear of God in this place, so they would kill me in order to take my wife. But she is actually also my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and so she became my wife. When God had me leave my father's house, I told her, 'Do me this favor. Wherever we go, say about me, he is my brother.' Avimelech took sheep, cattle, and male and female slaves, and gave them to Abraham, and he returned to him Sarah his wife. Then Avimelech said, 'Look, my country lies before you. Live where you like.' To Sarah he said, 'Here I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. That will allay the suspicion of everyone who is with you. Before everyone you are cleared.' Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Avimelech and his wife and slave girls, so they could all have children. For Adonai has made every woman in Avimelech's house infertile on account of Sarah, Abraham's wife." That is the finishing. Alright, that's our reading for today, so. A lot of, issues. I have a lot of issues with all that stuff we just read. Yeah. It is interesting to me, like, you look at the older stories and they always talk about, like, God actually coming down to earth and, like, talking with the people face to face. Which is interesting because later in the Bible it says no one can see God and live. But in these verses, like, it says that, like, God came down from heaven and, like, talked to Abraham face to face and, you know, actually, like, sat under a tree and ate bread with him. And so it's interesting how that morphs over time into, you know, God actually being a physical being coming down. And then I feel like throughout the Old Testament, he slowly turns into, like, just this being up in the sky. But I guess we haven't read all that, so. But, I mean, in the New Testament, like, there's no, other than Jesus. Oh, that's gross. See, that's weird, because, like, the angels told Lot's wife to not look back, not Lot, so how do they justify that? Because the angels told them not to, and they were supposedly men? I guess that makes sense. New covenant. There is no new covenant. Well, there is. Here's the thing. If you follow like Jesus and what he said, there's no new covenant, because Jesus said that you have to stick to the original covenant in order to go to heaven. But then Paul came along and said that he saw Jesus in a vision and Jesus had changed all that and told him, no, all you have to do is believe in his death and resurrection. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's very interesting because they make him more of a person in the Old Testament, I feel like, where he actually has, like, physical body and stuff, but then later he turns into spirit. So, which, I don't know how you explain spirit, like, because when I hear spirit, I feel, it's like ghost, but I don't believe in ghosts. So, if you don't believe in ghosts and you don't believe, like, there's some sort of paranormal, like, how do you, or supernatural, I guess they would say in the church, how would you describe spirit? Yeah, I didn't realize that, like, the first 20 chapters, it's all just, like, all those stories that you hear growing up in the church, like, they're just, like, boom, 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 they're all right there. Because it's like we went from Adam and Eve to Noah, and then Abraham, so it's just, like, they're real fast. But I don't know. It's really weird to me that they have a lot of repeats, too, because I feel like they say the same thing over and over again in a lot of places. And especially with, like, the Abraham story, where it's, like, two different, like, kings, but it's the same story. And I don't know, I've heard that happens a lot in the Bible, where they just take the same story and change the names and even the people who were in the story and just repeat it. Especially, I know with, like, Jesus, they were talking about how a lot of his story, like, lines up with some of the Old Testament stories, too, and, like, they just took those stories and, like, rehashed them to make Jesus into a prophet and all this stuff, so it is interesting. Yeah, I don't know how you can read the first, I mean, we've only read the first 20 chapters, and already, like, there's horrible things in it, like, there's genocide, and there's, like, God destroying whole cities, and people having slaves, and treating women as property. Like, it's all right there if you just read it straightforward. It says exactly what they believe and what they think. And I don't know. I don't know how anyone who reads that, or even the apologists who read that, like, could come out and say, oh no, God didn't say this, because, I mean, like yesterday when we were talking, like, an angel clearly stated that the slave girl needed to go back to her master. I mean, that was an angel. He was a messenger of God. So you can't say that God did not condone these things, because he does, clearly, if the angel's telling the girl to go back. But, yeah. I mean, even just reading the first 20 chapters, like, I think a lot of people, if they had not been raised this way and been told that this is actual history, this is actually what happened, this is what we believe about the world because it's actually lines up with archaeology and history and all that. I mean, if I hadn't been taught that way and I had just read that, there'd be red flags going off real quick. But, yeah, and I don't think I've ever actually, like, read the Bible all the way through. I mean, I know I've read, like, bits and pieces of it, and I've heard it in church, and, but actually looking at it yourself and looking at the text and being like, what does this actually say? You know, what did God actually line out in the Bible, as opposed to, you know, what your pastor or people in your church tell you in Sunday school? Because I think a lot of the times those people don't even read the Bible. They just kind of regurgitate whatever they're told, and they believe it, instead of actually looking at the text and being like, well, what does this actually say, and how does this apply to that culture, and how does this have nothing to do with us now? Like, and I think that's where that critical thinking comes in too, because a lot of people don't use that when it comes to religion. I mean, they'll use it for other religions, like, oh, this stuff really can't happen because, you know, Muhammad really can't split the moon in half, or I don't know, the other texts that say things like that, and they're just like, no, that can't be true. But then we look at the Bible and we go, oh yeah, it's true, even though it says, like, miracles that really don't happen did happen. And I mean, even the first chapter of the Bible says like how the earth and stuff was formed. And if you ever look up like how the earth actually looked to people in the Old Testament, it's really interesting, because it's basically like a giant snow globe. And the earth was like flat, and then there's like a globe over it, and then water above and water below. And yeah, you would have to completely change your entire idea of I don't know, science and things that we know of today. Like, we know the earth is round, we know that it's in space and it's floating, and yeah, so I don't know how people reconcile how that works, because if you actually do believe that and you look at that, like, you would have to believe that God somehow completely changed the earth after the flood, which a lot of them do. Like, a lot of people think that, you know, all that changed after the flood, but I don't know how God can go from a flat earth to, like, flooding the world and then the earth is completely round. Like, it seems like a stretch to me, but anyways. Anyone else have any insights or anything they want to talk about today? I don't know. It's interesting. I thought this would be, like, super boring, but I still wanted to do it, and now that I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, this isn't boring. Like, there's a lot of things that get me thinking, and, yeah, it's always easy to push it out when you're dead. It's that, you know, that promise of stuff afterwards, but you have no proof of it. Thank you. I'm glad. It's weird reading it, though, because I feel like I'm not that great of a reader. But reading all those Bibles names, I feel like I was just like, I don't know, speaking an alien language or something. And I know I got a lot of them probably incorrect, so. But I'm trying to, I don't know, make this enjoyable for people and, like, actually want to come and read along. And yeah, it's funny because when I started, I was like, I don't want to do, like, a Bible study. I just want to read so that people can read along with me. But the more I get into it, the more I realize, like, oh, like, these are things I want to talk about and discuss and think critically about. And I don't know. I think going through it and asking questions and being like, this doesn't make sense, or like, well, why does the text say that? Or I think that's something that I'm not used to because of the way I was taught in church and grew up in church. And I think being able to do this with other people and like have feedback from people who have left the church and understand like where I'm coming from, like it changes how I want to do this, because it's like, oh, I don't want to do a Bible study, but it's like, yeah, this is actually nice. Like, this is like atheist Bible study, but like we can actually ask the questions we want here and actually like dig into the text and figure it all out. And yeah, I think like I just got like that book from Dr. Josh about the Old Testament too, and I think when I start reading that, like there'll be a lot more answers too that I can like chime in on. But my husband's reading it right now, so I have to wait till he's done. But yeah, I'm excited to read that, and especially reading the Bible, like reading it before I read that book, I think a lot of things will make a lot more sense to me now because I will understand it a lot better and see that perspective. Hello, sir now. Hey, yeah, I think reading the Bible before I read Dr. Josh's book is actually going to help me see a lot more of those issues and just see like how that culture in that time actually dealt with some of that stuff. Because I think like if I hadn't read the Bible along with it, like I know some of the stories because I was raised in it, and you know, they tell you all those things when you're a kid, like Noah's Ark and Abraham and how the earth was created, and but actually digging into them and seeing them from the other side, I think is going to be interesting. Yeah, I'm excited about that book actually. And I know he's gonna I know he talked about at least doing a second one, so I think that's gonna be a good thing for people who have left the church, and just to understand like where these people were actually coming from. And you know, I've read a lot of other books from other people about, you know, archaeology and history and things, but I think Josh has a really unique perspective because like he has actually studied that culture and that time period, and not just like the Israelites, like just them, like he studied that whole region, and he, I feel like, has super good insight on like how the different cultures in that region came to like the myths and things that they actually had. So I think it will be good. And I think, well, and like you said, it's a handbook, so it's going to be good for, even if you're, you know, you're talking to someone who's a Christian and they have a question, like, and you don't know the answer to it, you can look it up in that handbook and be like, well, this is what they were actually thinking back then, and this is how their culture was, and this is why it says what it says in the Bible. So I think that's a great way to actually look at that. But yeah, I'm one of those people. I love like just history and religion in general, So, like, once I left the church, like, I just, like, deep dived into all kinds of things. And it's funny because growing up in the church, like, I used to read, like, books about all kinds of different religions and just be like, this is ridiculous. But I never applied the logic that I applied to those in my own life. And I don't know. I think that might have just made it easier for me when I did leave, because it's like, oh, well, if all these people believe this religion and all these people believe this religion, there's obviously a reason that people, you know, have the faith that they do. And a lot of times it's just indoctrination. I am always curious, though, about people who weren't raised in it and came to it later. But I feel like a lot of those people were in vulnerable places when that happened. And the church kind of took advantage of that. Because I've never, like, every time I was in church, I never heard a testimony about someone being like, oh, my life was amazing and I loved it and I just wanted to go to church. It's always, I was a mess. I was a drug addict. I was a thief or whatever. I was in jail for 10 years. Like, I've never heard a testimony that's like, my life was amazing and then I found God. So it's interesting that a lot of those people, like, they needed something at those points in their lives and the church just happened to be there. And I'm sure that happens in other religions too. Like, I feel like Christians sometimes think that that only happens within their circles. But I'm sure, like, the same thing happens in other religions where people are vulnerable and the religion preys on them. I mean, it's not just Christianity that uses the tactics that they do to get people into the church. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm babbling. Anybody else have anything else they want to say? All right. Well, I have kids screaming in the living room, so I probably should go deal with that. So, thank you all for coming. I'm going to try to do, tomorrow we're going to start on, 20? So 21 tomorrow? Yeah, we'll start on 21 tomorrow. I don't know what time, we'll see. Depends on my day. But, yeah. Thank you everyone for coming, and have an amazing day and a great weekend. And I'm glad you guys are coming and reading the Bible with me. Thanks, guys.